There aren't that many times in life where you hear something so profoundly stupid that it just brings you to your knees, where you are crying, laughing, you're enraged, you're astonished, you're disturbed, you cannot accept what you just heard. You replay it. Well, if you have the ability to replay it. In this case, we do. This is a video that I'm going to be able to share with you guys and gals. It is basically the dumbest thing I have ever heard out of the mouth of a religious leader as it relates to philosophy and a way of life and a perspective and a way of approaching the most difficult things in life, which are your mistakes. Psychologically, I understand. Difficult to accept that we make mistakes. But depending on how difficult you think it is really just a sign of how secure you are internally. And this is why honesty is the single most important virtue. Because the war is inside all of us. And honesty is what solidifies your foundation. It gives rise to integrity and a whole host of other virtues. And when I talk about integrity, understand this. I'm not talking primarily about bearing false witness or telling lies to other people. Of course, that's not good. It only harms you and weakens you and conditions you to avoid facing your fears and avoid the honesty that builds the integrity that is the foundation of a sound individual. Honesty within yourself is what is most important. Honesty within yourself pertains to whether or not you lie to yourself. When you are asked something from somebody about yourself and you feel insecure about it, avoiding that, trying to be deceptive to avoid reality. For one, chances are it's just going to expose you as insecure and weak and deceptive. But worse than that, you're conditioning yourself to run from things. It's either flight or fight. Not literally fight, but face your fears through honesty and dialogue with other individuals that ask you questions. You should be afraid of nothing. You should be able to have respectful discourse with anyone on the planet about any single thing in the world, so long as they're respectful. And if you don't want to, there are respectful ways to address you and your discomfort with the discussion. There are honorable ways to be honest with somebody about something that you're uncomfortable talking about. But chances are, if you're uncomfortable talking about it, it's because you haven't addressed it internally. You have work to do in order to value your mistakes. Yes, I said that. Value your mistakes for what they are. The learning opportunities that you would not choose for yourself to go through. Those are divine sparks, divine happenings where you go through something that was your fault, so you have that remorse and that regret, you have that shame, but that's just the initial feeling. You should embrace those mistakes, not to do them again, no, but you should cherish them as a moment in time that you will never have again willingly. And chances are you wouldn't have willingly stumbled upon that way of living initially. These are mistakes. These are accidents. These are things that are supposed to bring an initial feeling of negativity. There's nothing to be ashamed of long term. I love telling stories about myself at a younger age when I made all sorts of bad decisions. Those are some of my best stories. Usually tell them when there's a lot of people there. The bigger the audience, the bigger the laugh, around a campfire, wherever. That's what makes life life. And on that note, laughing at those mistakes is a sign that you have conquered it. Is a sign that you've gone through the initial phase of feeling negative, feeling ashamed, embarrassed. You've already climbed that mountain, and you're proud to have reached the top because you're lucky. You got to experience a mistake. Maybe it's a mistake that a lot of people don't make. Good for you. That makes that mistake and that experience all the more significant and unique. That makes you more unique. That gives you perspective. That opens the door of perception. It incorporates an experience that not everyone gets to experience. You do, though, because you made that mistake. No matter how dumb it was. The dumber, the better. Again, not that you should go out and try to make mistakes. No. But when you are gifted with that decision that you would have not otherwise made without that error in judgment, you have been given a gift. So stop crying about it. Stop trying to avoid reality. That's something to embrace. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's a reason that saying has stood the test of time and is well known around the world. There's always a silver lining. Every storm is followed by sunshine. If your glass is half empty, that's your fault that it's not half full. This philosophy of aligning yourself with positive thoughts, critical thoughts, but positive, that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself and for the people you love, because your relationships will be better when you can laugh at yourself. It tells the world you're confident in who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly. And you don't have to be confident. Frankly, confidence is not something you can be willfully. Confidence is a byproduct of you accepting yourself and you embracing everything about your life and your actions from a positive point of view and taking those mistakes as opportunities to grow and strengthen your understanding of why those mistakes are known as mistakes to the world. When you accept yourself like that and you become comfortable with all of you, that's where confidence comes from. That's how you become confident. It's not about what you do in life. It's not about what you achieve. It's about what you do when you fail. When you get back up and you address, you incorporate that experience in a way that allows you to grow. You address the flaws of your nature, that decision. You understand why it is that you made the decision without any fear, without any shame, without any guilt. Sure, initially you can feel those negative feelings. That's natural. But you want to become sensitive to those feelings. You want life to be embraced at any moment. So experience the negativity initially, but then celebrate afterwards, because you made a mistake that you don't plan on making again. That is the importance of honesty. Honesty is, again, I say primarily. Secondarily, yes, you should be honest to everyone. But first, if you're not honest with yourself, you better believe you're going to be dishonest with everyone. You can't do anything of real significance out in the world if you haven't already conquered yourself. Conquering yourself is simply being honest with yourself and loving yourself. And just know, for those of you that think, oh, that sounds too difficult, I don't know how I'm going to do that. And it's all about accepting and embracing. When you make mistakes, that is good. And so changing your mindset to adopt that mentality is the first step. And the more you accept it, the more you find that you actually grow from embracing them, the more you talk about it with others when the subject comes up, the more you'll find that those are your best opportunities to say something funny, to make people laugh, to share in laughter at the expense of your own self-deprecation. Why? Because you're confident that is not what makes you who you are. Ironically, it does make you who you are, but it doesn't leave you with a negative perception of yourself, with a lower self-esteem because of your past. Most of your problems in life, most of your suffering mentally, emotionally, it either comes from your memories and your inability to embrace them and grow from them in a healthy way. It's either that or it's your imagination. So this is, I want to say this is fairly simple stuff. Nothing I'm saying is groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination. Most adults understand exactly what I'm saying. The funny part about that is, I don't want to say most adults, but a lot of adults know a lot of things, but don't live by them. They've never actually walked in that way. They've never lived with that lifestyle, that mentality, day in and day out. And they, when you do that, when you don't embrace wisdom like this, virtue, you only are hurting yourself and your fear because of the imagination that you have about embracing it. Well, if I embrace it, then it's going to make me feel insecure and all these things. No, it's not going to, but your imagination will if you let it. This is why, just full circle, it's important to value honesty. You don't have to understand it fully. If you hear me say all this and you don't understand it, that's fine. But just value virtue. And take my word for it that honesty, no, don't take my word for it. Continue to do your own research. I'm not over here trying to shame anybody. We are all on our own journeys. There are things that I still haven't conquered that you might think is pathetic. Whatever. That's not what this video is about. This is about sharing the wisdom. And so learn to value honesty. Understand that honesty in its most critical and significant form is honesty with yourself, because honesty with others will flow from that. If you're honest with yourself, you will be secure, because you will know that the only thing to fear is fear itself. Being honest with yourself allows you the freedom of your mind. It frees your mind from those negative thoughts and that imagination that will hurt you. Psychologically, emotionally, spiritually even, in your relationships, and in your relationship with yourself, most importantly. Honesty is that foundation that once you fully accept that that is a virtue that you are not going to stray away from, once you could have the conviction and you decide to embody that honesty as a core principle that you will not violate, over time you will see the value, because you will see the growth. You will see the improvement. You will see all of the fruits that come from good tree, that tree of honesty. I could go on for another 10 minutes or so, but I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and move on to this video. Now, this video that I'm going to let you guys listen to, like I said, again, this is not rocket science. Now, granted, it is difficult sometimes to embody, so I don't want to. But this video, this is coming from a religious discussion. This is a religious leader, or a religious discussion at least, talking about Islam. Now, everyone that knows me knows I am an equal opportunity offender as it pertains to authority in places where it doesn't belong. And when we have religions that are founded on the logical fallacy of the appeal to authority, or flawed philosophy, like in this case, or low vibration and frequency, like fear, shame, and guilt, and they tell humanity that for the sake of their eternal soul, they must adopt these low vibration thought forms and perspectives as it relates to your worldview, that is a problem. And that's what this Our Awareness Revolution is all about. That's what this revolution is addressing. People are waking up to this reality that we need not another religion. Lord knows we don't need another one of those. No. We need humanity to unite spiritually, because right now this religiously pluralistic world that we live in has humanity divided. And there is no other way we are going to unite other than through spirituality. That's why we need something powerful. This is why the Raise Our Awareness Revolution is humanity's roar. We are transitioning from sheep to lions. And so anyway, back to this video. This video is just disturbing, and it's sad because they're talking about this in a religious context. There's a term that this guy uses that Islam calls it. And what he's talking about is the lie of omission. He's talking about being deceptive in order to protect yourself from your own feelings, your imagination. So without further ado, let me play that video, let y'all listen to it, and I will be right back with that fire and wisdom.
If someone asks you about your past sins, should you lie for the sake of concealing them, or tell the truth, as Allah always says, be truthful? No, you're not allowed to lie, except in one case. If telling your sin is going to cause you great harm, then you can lie. Why? Because now you are saving yourself from harm. But in general, there's something in Islam called ta'rid, which means you don't say the truth, but you also don't lie. Can you learn how to do that? For example, if someone says to me, have you ever drank alcohol? God forbid. I've never, alhamdulillah. But let's say I did in my past. Instead of saying yes, I don't want to say that I drank alcohol, I can say, so only a foolish person does that. So I haven't lied, but I haven't told the truth. So it's called ta'rid. Or you can just be blunt and be the Aussie way. What's it to you? It's not your business.
Oh, man. What's funny is whenever I do these videos, I'll do my intro, then I'll watch the video again just to refresh my memory, maybe a couple times, and then I'll do my follow-up. But this case, I had to watch it multiple times just because I love that cringe factor. And it's sad. It's maddening. Not maddening, but, just perplexing. It blows my mind that this, again, is part of a religious discussion. Now, I want to say this. It's hilarious to me that he says, starting off the video, you shouldn't lie, you should be truthful, but there is one case where you can lie. So right there he says you can lie in the case of where telling the truth would bring you harm. In this case, we're talking about your feelings that would be harmed by your imagination and your perception of what others thought of you by being honest, which is sad that we're talking about this, but that's it. So he says in those cases, you can lie. But then he goes on to say right after that you can't lie, so you don't tell the truth, but then you don't tell a lie. But he already admitted in the beginning of the video, but 10 seconds earlier, that you can lie. He's telling you, I understand this is a lie. I am living, my form of communication is being disingenuous, and I am deceiving the person that asked the question of me. I'm deceiving them through the lie of omission. And however I don't tell him the truth, he has already told you in the beginning of the video, it's okay to lie in this situation. But then he says, but it's not lying. It's too late. You already gave yourself away. You already said it's okay to lie. And you told us how we're going to do it. What's really sad is that when he gives you a real world example, for one, have you ever drank alcohol? Have you ever drank alcohol? Have you ever drank alcohol? If you're lying about that, you are lying about everything. This guy's reputation, for anyone that heard him say this, now granted, he's probably talking to people that are just ready to soak up the knowledge, and they're ready to obey because that's a big part of the Abrahamic faith, especially Christianity and Islam. Normally I do videos on Catholicism. This one's the first one on Islam, I think. And wow, I need to start doing more Islamic videos just for the cringe factor and the humor factor. Although this is as funny as it is sad. But we're talking about alcohol, drinking alcohol. And I get it, it's a sin in Islam. But anyway, these people, they probably don't even understand that this guy just basically told them, don't trust me. Anytime you say anything to me, don't trust me. How could you? Because how are you going to know if I'm going to feel insecure about me being honest with you? Because wherever I feel insecure, according to Islam and whatever tawheed or whatever term he used, you're okay to lie. So whenever I'm talking to somebody that's Muslim, I know that if they feel insecure, there's a good chance I might not get the truth. I don't know if all these people that hear this are processing it that way, but that's the reality. And so that's why honesty is so important, is because you're sharing with people who you are. Every time you open your mouth, the spoken word is powerful as it flows out of you, and it's just as powerfully a reflection of what's going on inside of you. That's why they say, which is a hint to people that just like to put their foot in their mouth all the time, like this guy, silence is golden. No one knows how unintelligent you are until you open your mouth. And I can't wait to do more research on this subject. Well, I was scrolling through. When I found this video, I immediately was like, all right, we're doing a video on this immediately. I didn't do any research on if this is like a widespread belief within the Islamic community that when you feel insecure or you feel like harm will be done to you by your imagination if you have to tell the truth, that you should lie but not lie through the way of all the different versions of types of lies that the young child wouldn't consider a lie, but a more advanced human being would recognize is a lie. Like, I can't wait to do that research after this. And just because this subject is so important and how honesty should be the very number one core principle inside of each and every one of us, I'll probably make another video after I do the research and talk for another hour about this and on this subject, because if there's anything in the world that would change it, it would be humanity, each and every one of us being honest. First with ourselves, secondly with everyone else. That is going to be at the foundation of the future of humanity, the new earth, the earth where we heal from the deceptions, the corruption, the crime, the greed, all the low vibration, negative energies that are part of the past thousands of years. As we transition out of that, honesty is going to be at the core of what everyone values. And it's going to be fearless honesty. So fearless that self-deprecation is embraced by all. I promise you, for those of you that are listening to me, I know you have laughed very hard at many times in your life of someone that was so comfortable with themselves because they're comfortable with being honest. You laughed at stories that they told that were self-deprecating in nature, so in a way that told a story about them that made them look less than or stupid or whatever you call it. And all of us have enjoyed some of our best laughs from that. What I'm here to say is that it's just as fun being on the other side of that, telling that story and being able to laugh with them. Those are literally some of my best stories. Those are some of my favorite stories to tell, is when I'm making myself look like a former fool. Excuse me. And it's as simple as recognizing that the innards of what goes on in here, it's all up to you to allow it to negatively affect you. No one can hurt your mind unless you let them. This is so key to understand, because we see all sorts of types of conditions, mentally, issues that people have. And when you really zoom in and dial it back and you figure out the source is their imagination. And they have this hyper focus on what other people think about them. And it's because of philosophies like this, the one this guy's promoting, that apparently is espoused by the Islamic faith. This is what causes people to approach life with this mentality. This is a flawed philosophy that needs to be exposed and extinguished. I've always been a big proponent, a strong proponent of virtue, living life in accordance with virtue to the best of your ability. Again, we're not perfect. No one is perfect. So anyone that wants to try to make you feel like a fool, that person is being dishonest in that moment. And they're also telling you they're so insecure with themselves that they got to try to hurt your feelings so that they can feel good. But this very way of approaching life is at the core of what needs to fundamentally change inside of everyone's minds. Because if you don't love yourself, it's all the more difficult to love other people. When you love yourself, not egotistically, not pridefully, but when you love the essence of your presence as the gift that it is for you and for the world, when you have that humble love for yourself, it is priceless. It changes you, and you no longer have to try to love others. You radiate love. It becomes something you identify with. And when you identify with it in your core, if you're doing something else or you're doing whatever, you can't stop it. It will come out of you. Again, it doesn't mean you're perfect, but there's a better chance that you will find yourself acting in loving ways towards other people when you can genuinely love yourself. Not have to try to love yourself. It's an acceptance. It's a deep concept that you understand within yourself that this life is a gift, and the way for me to make the most of it is to be humble, to have humility, to accept that how you deal with yourself is what dictates what type of person you become. To basically not be afraid, to not have fear. That's why they say fear, there's nothing in life to fear other than fear itself. That is so true, and that perfectly applies to this. Because it's the fear of what people might think about you that drives this guy to promote this flawed philosophy. This is a philosophy that will harm you for the rest of your entire life if you adopt it. Not only that, but you will be digging holes for yourself right and left. You have to try to remember all the different lies that you've made. And you're lucky when you encounter someone like me and I catch you in a lie. Because a lot of times I won't even call you out. Because I see that you have issues. And I just respectfully don't feel that I'm going to convince you by calling you out and making you feel more insecure and feel the harm that you were so afraid of that you had to lie to me in the first place. And so what's sad is that, going back to this video, this guy, not only does he promote being deceptive, but he goes on to give you a real world scenario. Have you ever drank alcohol? And his prescription, his response as to what you should say or what you could say. Here's an example. You could say, no, only fools drink alcohol, or whatever he said. That's even worse. That's exactly what I'm talking about. He's now doubling down with another lie. He's saying that only fools do that. Do you think you're a fool? No. But you're saying only fools do something that you yourself have done, even though you don't think you're a fool. That's another lie. Just compounded on the lie. Compounded on the original lie of not being honest with yourself and letting fear overcome you and dictate how you're gonna live and lead you down a path where you lose the war. There's only one war, and that war is inside of you. And this philosophy is it's a recipe. If you adopt this philosophy, you have lost the war on so many levels, but just fundamentally at its core, you have lost the war of living your life in accordance with virtue. Matter of fact, I want to tell a story. I was at a bar with a buddy drinking, sinning, I guess, if I were Muslim, and I obeyed what other men had told me was divinely revealed to them. I would have been sinning, I suppose. But good thing I don't submit to what other men tell me I must believe, and I must have fear for my soul if I don't believe it. Thank goodness, because that means I wasn't sinning. But anyway, I digress. So I'm at the bar, we're outside, and I see these two women fighting. And so I break up the fight, and right away I could tell the way they were talking, they weren't giving much information. They kept repeating themselves. This is my best friend. I don't know why she's doing this. This is my best friend. And the way they were dressed, I could tell it was about money, and I understood the line of work they were in. So I ended up luckily getting one of them to calm down, come over and talk with me. So I'm holding onto her from the side. We're both facing forward, and we're looking off into the distance. And I start to talk to her. I understand. We all understand. Life is difficult. And so I'm telling her, I get it. You have to first survive. And that means you have to secure your finances. So, I understand that. That's your number one concern. And, we're willing to do all sorts of things to stay alive. But your decisions are something that you are in control of making. And there is a war that is going on inside of you. And that war is about whether or not you are willing to make decisions that are not in accordance with virtue versus in accordance with virtue. Aligned with love versus not aligned with love. Aligned with the interest of others selflessly, or not aligned with the interest of others. That's the war that we all have to fight. And so I want you to do me this favor for the rest of your life. I want you to wake up every day, look in the mirror, and ask yourself, am I going to win this fight? Am I going to do what I know is morally upright and in the best interest of myself and the world that I interact with? Am I going to live a life in accordance with virtue? And yes, in order to secure your financial wherewithal to support your pulse, to keep you alive, no matter how difficult it is, am I going to do what's right in order to make money? Am I going to prevent myself from doing things that I know are harmful to myself, disrespectful to myself, or harmful to others and disrespectful to them? Preying on their weaknesses, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's your decision at the end of the day. There's one thing I can promise you, that these situations, this fight that you were in, all of these things with people that you're close with, all of these negative experiences, these things will continue to follow you so long as you are living a life that is not in accordance with virtue. Period. Again, I understand you have to preserve yourself. You have to make money. You have to survive. I get that, and it's difficult. But if you want to avoid these situations and these fights, and you want to do what's best for you in life, if you really care about yourself, you should care about yourself more than just the immediate moment. You should care about your future, because what's today if you don't have a future? And so basically it was a long, heated, it was a passionate discussion. And that was the first time I had really ever explained to somebody the war is inside each and every one of us. And it's very simple. Am I going to love other people, and are my actions going to be in line with virtue, so that love from me comes naturally, and I don't I don't have to regularly neglect to love others, even though I didn't mean to, but because my actions were outside of virtue and were selfish, I harmed others or neglected to love them accidentally or unknowingly. That's really what it boils down to. And so I tell that story because it is true about the war. And once the world starts recognizing that this battle is a spiritual battle that is inside each and every one of us, then we will start to finally see change. And I get it, it's difficult out there, but we need to recognize the spiritual battle, and we need to recognize our responsibility, because all of our actions, our ways of life should be in line with what we know is true when we're looking at ourselves in the mirror. And so back to this original video, when you're talking about honesty, that's the core principle. That would be the more maddening part of this video, is that he's not talking about like little things like hurting someone's feelings or whatever, slipping up. He's talking about being dishonest with yourself. Just like I told that girl, when you wake up in the morning, first thing, number one thing you do, ask yourself, am I going to fight this fight to preserve my life through making decisions that are in accordance with virtue? Am I going to be honest? Would be an example. If the answer is no, then you're going to have problems in life, period. And that's why this philosophy that this guy is espousing and promoting under the religion of Islam is maddening. That it's because integrity comes from honesty. And so it's sad how he's doubling down by making fun of people that he's denying himself to be, people that have drank. Only fools drink. Man, get out of here. That's how comfortable that guy is with lying, that he just, every other thing is a lie. And so that's the first thing the world needs to tackle, individually and then ultimately collectively. Tackling that will, if you're honest, it forces you to ask the difficult questions. Is our monetary system in this world fair? Are there people at the lower income demographic? Are they in a position financially, economically, that is fair, that an equitable system would provide them? The answer is no. Okay, so what should we do about it? Well, if we're honest, we should ask the difficult questions. We should get involved. I know there's not a lot we can do in that regard. That ship has sailed, and we will see the results of that here soon. But it's being able to ask those difficult questions, not just of yourself, but of the organizations you're a part of, the people you're with. Are you honest enough to be secure with criticism from yourself or from other people? Because it really is something that once you conquer honesty within yourself, you don't ever have to think about it again. You don't ever have to suffer from the consequences of having dishonest relationships and finding yourself lying when you didn't even mean to. You're just so comfortable with it. No. So it's simple to understand. In the beginning, it can be difficult to live, but just know that once you conquer honesty with yourself, that is the foundation that will lead to all sorts of good things. And that is the foundation that you do not want to, you don't want to live without, and your life will have so many more problems compared to if you don't conquer that compared to if you do. It's just that simple. So I'll go ahead and leave it at that for this video. Man, I'm spent. It's such an important subject. It's the most important subject in my opinion. And so anyway, once again, I'm Da Vinci the Truth. This is the Raise Our Awareness Revolution, humanity's roar, waking up to our divinity, humbly stepping into that divinity and respecting each other as one family under the banner of humanity, not any other label that has been given to us by whatever form of rulers or argument from authority from our past. No. This is the Raise Our Awareness Revolution. And we are going to dictate the future of this world. And so, anyway, love, God bless, take care.